Live with the community. This is the Microsoft Power Platform community call for January 2023. Today is January 18th. I am your host, David Warner, Community Program Manager for Power Platform, and I am so excited to get into 2023 with you all. We have got some amazing initiatives in store for you all and are super excited to begin sharing them with you today. There's something new today to talk about. So let's take a look at what our agenda is. We've got the latest updates and news on Power Platform. We're going to have our great group picture time together in together mode. Everybody loves that. And then I mentioned new. Did I mention new? I mentioned new. Community call conversations. You got to stay till the end, everybody. We're going to tell you about this new program and initiative that we're starting with the community to give you more collaborative opportunity to work together. So super excited. Then we are going to discuss our amazing demos of the day with Lindsay. She's going to talk about building a name pronunciation database with Power Apps and Power Automate. Dennis is going to mention a bot from a Power Automate flow. And then Scott is going to effortlessly show us grids of data in Power Apps using the Creator Kit. So we've got a hat trick of amazing presenters today. So excited for that. Let's do some housekeeping though. You may be thinking, I want to present on these calls, and guess what? You are welcome. We would love to have you present on these calls, and we're going to make it easy on you, actually. We've created a nice little URL for you to go fill out. Now, what's wonderful is this is a URL that you can use for all of the community calls that you see in our fantastic community, whether it be some of our PNP calls or this monthly call. You are welcome. It doesn't need to be anything that's earth-shattering. It could be a feature. It could be a practice, a solution that you want to share. We want you to show it to the world, and then we want to collaborate on it. So it is open to everyone. This is your community, and you are welcome to present. Don't hesitate. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to myself or anybody on the community success team, Hugo or Heather or Jocelyn or Vessa, and we are here to help you. All right? Absolutely here for everybody. Now, let's talk about some cool stuff that the community has actually made. We're going to talk about some Power Platform samples, and we're going to turn that over to April Dunnam.
Thank you, David. So we have one new sample this month here. We got the PDF Reader Creator Kit from Angelo. So this is pretty cool, actually using some of the Creator Kit functionality to build a PDF Reader application component here that you can utilize. So a really cool sample there. You should definitely go check out. And we have a few more that we'll process here in a little bit. Definitely encourage you, if you have any Power Platform solutions, Power Apps, Power Automate, virtual agents, whatever it might be, to go and contribute that to the sample repository. And if you don't know how to get started, this is on GitHub, maybe you've never used GitHub before, not sure how to package up your solutions and how to share that, I think we have something coming up to help you with that, don't we, David?
We absolutely do, April. I'm so glad you mentioned it. It's almost like we set that up, right? Well, friends, sharing is caring is exactly what April was describing. Now, this is a program that provides hands-on guidance. So if you're new to the community and you're wanting to do all those amazing things like April had mentioned, we're here for you. This system and a program is hands-on live sessions. That means that we're going to get on calls together and we're going to accomplish tasks together. So for example, if you want to submit one of your amazing Power Platform solutions or samples that you've created, but you don't quite understand or are not comfortable with that whole GitHub stuff, which is confusing because it uses weird words like fork and raw and blame, and that's a lot of stuff. We will walk you through together. What's even better, these are safe space opportunities. We don't record those calls, so you can feel free to ask any and all questions that you would like without fear of it going on record. Sometimes we think, should I know this? How to do this? Does anybody else? Is this new to everybody? Everyone starts somewhere, folks. So we absolutely encourage you to join these sessions. We have just scheduled another Power Platform Samples contributor session for February 23rd that you are more than welcome to register for. They are completely free. We've got a writing for the web coming up next week. So that is open for registration. So don't hesitate. We'd love to communicate and collaborate with you. And by the way, you get a badge for that. Wait, you said badge? What badge? Is there badges? You betcha. We have our community recognition program. Now, this is a formal and official recognition program that we have created for you in the community to say thank you. Thank you for all the amazing work that you're doing in the community to showcase all of the incredible technology that we have. And this is powered by Credly. Yeah, that same Credly that when you get certified by Microsoft, you get a badge. It's the same one. So your community badges are going to sit right alongside those certification badges, and they're going to allow you to show to your managers, to your clients, to both, that you are making an official difference in the community. These are accredited, so they can be associated to LinkedIn. You can put them on your blog. You can share them on Twitter. We encourage you to let everyone know about them. We have so many new badges available for you. Of course, a number of Power Platform. Our presenters today are going to get the 2023 Community Call Presenter Badge, and we've got all more coming out with lots of opportunities for you to contribute and be recognized. It's absolutely free. Again, we cover the cost, no cost to you. We do need you to opt in, which you can do at aka.ms/community/recognition. And if you already have, don't need to do it twice. We'll track you for ever. We won't stalk you, but we'll track you, and we'll make sure that you get credit for everything. So we really appreciate you're doing what you're doing, and this is our way of giving back and saying thank you. So let's move on to some community shows and events, and I'm going to turn it back over to April to talk about a few things.
All right, thanks, David. So just an update on our Low Code Revolution show. We've been pushing out several new episodes over the last month here. I did an episode with Jim Dugan about Azure app modernization with Power Apps, a pretty cool scenario of how you can actually modernize your mainframe development with Power Apps front end. So a really cool scenario there if you're still using some mainframes. And then Daniel Laskowitz on the team has started a brand new series, Power Platform CLI Exposed. So he's doing a series of videos here, walking you through start to finish how to get started with Power Platform CLI, with the first one being with Kartik there. And those will be monthly videos going on here for a little bit. So definitely check that out. And if you're interested in being a guest, we have a link there, aka.ms/Low Code Revolution guest. We would love to have you featured on the show. Now, in addition to the Low Code Revolution, I want to let you know about some things that we have going on, some events that we have going on next month. And it's Powerful Devs Conference is back. So you might remember we've had this the year before last, and then the year before that. So this will be the third or fourth, I've lost track, actually, year of the Powerful Devs Conference. So it will be a half-day virtual event on February 15th, starting at 9 a.m. So this event is Power Platform focused, but kind of from the code-first developer angle. So all talking about the integrations that you can do from custom connectors, Power Apps component framework, and all of that good stuff that you can do to extend the Power Platform with your code-first developer skills. So you can go to that link there to learn more. We'll be publishing the schedule of the session soon. We'll have a wonderful keynote there for the event. So I hope you can check that out and join us live for that. Now, this is part of a bigger event that we have going on in February, though. We're doing a low code February, 30 days of low code. So if you go to aka.ms/low code-February, you can check that out. That will be kicking off actually January 31st to give us a couple days, since February is a short month there. So again, this is focused on that kind of integrating your code first developer skills with the Power Platform. So we'll have some hands-on labs, guided tutorials, exercises that you can go to, ask the experts, all kinds of stuff where you can learn daily blog posts and all that, how to get started with some of the capability there that we hope you check out. And then at the end of that, we'll have a Cloud Skills Challenge and all of that you can take part of. So hope you can check that out. More information to come soon once we get ready to launch that. So that's what we have. Back to you, David.
Awesome. Thank you, April. That is exciting stuff. All right, let's keep on the event trail here, shall we, folks? Now, last month, we shared with you a community call discount code for the European Power Platform Conference. Well, guess what? Hugo Rocks is back. I said, hey, Hugo. He said, I said, could you be willing to share this code again? And he said, oh, yeah. So I said, woo! So he only had one request, and that was that we let him include a little selfie of himself. So he gave me this selfie. I don't know, folks. I think it does look like him. I don't know. If you ask me, that is Hugo. I've seen him in person. I'm not saying he's the Rock, but Hugo Rocks 30 is going to get you a 30% discount on your code. Only until January 24th, though. So definitely take advantage of this. It is going to be an amazing conference. Super excited for that. So don't hesitate to take advantage and let Hugo know he rocks by using it. All right? Cool. So let's talk about another event upcoming this weekend. If you're in the Twin Cities metro area or neighboring states, they're coming back with their M365 Twin Cities. It is this weekend in, where else? The Twin Cities in Minnesota. So you can definitely register for this if you're in that area. It's a great show. They put on a really well done event. I love it. And I recommend, don't hesitate to sign up if you're nearby. It is a free community event. You may be wondering, well, how could my event get included here? Well, we actually have community days available to you. This is a free way for you to include your event in community calls such as this, and you can access it at aka.ms/community days. Here is a couple of community days events that are coming up. All you need to do is go to that site, and if it's a free community event, you're absolutely free to list it, and we will try to highlight it for you on these calls. So definitely don't hesitate to get involved and share with the world the amazing events that you all are putting on, because we are here to support you. Now let's transition over to and talk about some connectors with Jocelyn. We welcome her to the call.
Hi, everyone. So nice to see you. Some of you guys might recognize me from some other community events, but it's my first time here at this one. Super excited to share with you guys some information on Power Platform connectors. In case you don't know what they are, these are the connectors that you use to connect to other data sources, other APIs, and other applications to Power Automate, Power Apps, and Azure Logic Apps. You might recognize some of these big ones on the left: Office, SharePoint, Dataverse. There are 3 types of Power Platform connectors that I'd like to share with you. There are first-party ones, which are owned by Microsoft, such as those Office and SharePoint connectors. There are verified publishers, which are made by third-party API owners. So think about people like DocuSign and Adobe. They own the API that the connector is made by. The last one, which I'd really like to emphasize to you guys, is independent publisher connectors. What are those? Independent publisher connectors are connectors made by community members, such as yourself, leveraging open source coding and open source APIs. Basically, you guys can contribute to our ecosystem of over 900, specifically 924 connectors by visiting our GitHub and getting involved. Some of these independent publisher connectors have resulted in some really awesome use case scenarios. Snowflake, HubSpot, Udemy, Spotify, GitLab, and OpenAI are all connectors that were made by independent publishers like you guys. So please reach out to me if you have any questions. I would love to help jumpstart your connector building experience, and I'm looking forward to seeing some of your contributions. And yes, there is a badge to be an independent publisher with connectors. Thank you, David.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing, Joss. We're going to have her back every month, everybody. So we're going to talk about the amazing work that you're doing. And I got a secret for you all. We're working on a sharing is caring session. Don't tell. Okay, tell everybody. Tell everybody. We're going to work on a sharing is caring session, and we're going to show you if you're wanting to get involved in connectors and do more with them, but you've been a little hesitant, we're going to do it together. So be on the lookout for that. Super, super excited. All right, well, what time is it? It is picture time. So if you would like to share with the community your amazing and fantastic faces, bring up your camera, and I'm going to click into Together mode here and open up Camtasia. Let's set the record. Good. Let's move that off the screen, and I'll move you all wonderful folks in. All right, looking good. We got a few more rows, I think. If you wanna share your camera, and all right. Well, I think all right. Yeah. Woo! I see Ralph in the front row, looking good. So let me hit record here. When we get to 3, 2, and 1, let's wave to the community, everybody. Take a wave and let everybody know how awesome you are. Love to see all the smiles and the faces. You are what powers our community. See what I did there? Powers our community. Awesome. Okay. All right, let's get back to it. All right, so, well, let's talk a little bit about our presenters for the day. So we are going to turn it over to Lindsay Shelton, who is going to cover building a name pronunciation, I don't know, database with Power Apps and Power Automate. Lindsay, take it away.
All right, let me get my screen set up here. So I'm here to talk to you about building a name pronunciation, quote unquote, database using both Power Apps and Power Automate. And just first to tell you a little bit about myself, my name is Lindsay Shelton. I am an application programmer from the Kansas City metro area. I am a Microsoft certified trainer, and a fun fact about me, I was actually a teacher for 10 years before switching careers, and I don't regret a single day switching careers. I love doing what I do now. I'm really excited about it every day. And I do a lot of different things with my current position. My biggest push that I'm working on right now is Power Platform adoption, governance, implementation at my organization, which I'm really excited about. But I've also done work with things like SharePoint framework development, Azure APIM implementation. So if any of that interests you, feel free to connect with me on socials, LinkedIn at Lindsay T. Shelton. You can reach out to me on my blog, lindsaytshelton.com, that I need to update more. Or I'm most active on Twitter at lshelton_tech. And so if any of those topics are interesting to you, or you want to, hear about my cats, feel free to reach out and connect with me. So this is something, I don't have a name that's mispronounced very often, but I do have a name that's misspelled quite a lot. So I can understand certainly why it's important. This is a quote that kind of helped drive why this was an important initiative for us to work on. Our names are our identities, closely linked to our heritage. Mispronouncing a name can be experienced as a kind of microaggression, as the person may feel put down, invisible, or unworthy. And I don't think anyone on this call would ever want to make someone feel any of those ways, and especially not on purpose. And I think, the bigger issue is we don't do it on purpose. We just don't necessarily have a way of knowing how to pronounce someone's name, especially in this time of hybrid work where we're not meeting people face to face and getting to hear their names. We're kind of putting out our best guess, and there's not an easy built-in out-of-the-box way for Microsoft, like there is with LinkedIn, to tell us how to pronounce someone's name. And this was especially an important initiative where I work because we are a medical research institute. We're a nonprofit. And because we're a scientific organization, we bring in employees from all over the globe. So we celebrate diversity. We're an incredibly diverse organization. So, what were we doing to help support and celebrate these unique individuals that we have working for us? And so we actually had a hackathon, which is a really cool, fun thing to do. Even if it's not all with your IT department, we brought in people who were non-IT people. And we do this for 3 days every year. And so I had actually 7 women on my team this year for our hackathon, and we came up with this solution. So it's not technically a database. It's just, a more of a casual misnomer to call it a database. What it is, it's a SharePoint site, and it's got 2 columns on it. One column has an embedded Power App, and one column has an embedded SharePoint document library. And the way it works is one of we call them members, our users, will come in and record their name pronunciations. And we actually added in pronouns because in the year of 2023, we also don't have a built-in way in Microsoft to, record our pronoun preference. So, we have the prompt up here. You can say, your name pronunciation, my pronouns are they, them, or whatever they are. You record it through the Power App, and then it's populated via a Power Automate flow into the SharePoint document library. I just blurred out the names for privacy. And then you can go in here and listen to other people's name pronunciations and pronouns. So, if I'm going to go meet with someone, or if I've just met someone and I'm not sure how to pronounce their name, I can listen to it as many times as I want to and practice it so that the next time I meet them, I can be confident in saying their name instead of avoiding it or mispronouncing it. The solution is actually made up of this Power App sitting on top of a Power Automate flow, which sits on top of the SharePoint page and document library. And I will tell you, I am not a UI person. One of my teammates actually graduated from Kansas City Art Institute, and she wanted to get her hands on this. And I said, you don't know how to do Power Apps, you're going to break it. So forgive any UI problems with it. How does it work on the front end? So the user clicks on this microphone control to start the recording. They record their name and pronouns if they wish, and they click the same button to stop the recording. Then they go down to step 2. This is not actually populated when they just first open up the app. So they click here and the preview audio button, and then it populates this audio control in a gallery. Then they can listen to their name, their recording as many times as they'd like. They can trash it. They can start over, record it again, preview audio, do that as many times as they want. It's not getting uploaded. Nothing's actually happening. It's just living in the app. And then as soon as they're happy with it, they click the upload audio file button. Then a Power Automate flow is working in the background to upload it to the SharePoint document library, which is, as I showed you, on the other side of the page that has the Power App on it. The Power App uses just some basic media controls. It's got the microphone control and then the audio control that plays the recording back. It's got a gallery control that has the audio recordings in it that just shows you the most recent recording. The button that populates the gallery with the most recent recording done. And then that button at the bottom, the upload button, that is triggering a Power Automate workflow. It is neumorphic just to be extra because I had a little extra time in the hackathon, so I wanted to use one of Christine K's tutorials and make it a little bit cool. So just to show you, I'm not going to show you everything. This sample is in the PNP samples gallery, both the Power App and the Power Automate workflow. So you can feel free to grab it and use it however you would like. But I did want to point out just a few things. So this microphone control here, it's not the on start that does anything. It's the on stop where we actually set things up. And now I'm going to try to explain this to you, but I'm also going to tell you right now, Daniel Christian posted a video a few years ago that went into the technical details of this, and this is how I was able to make this happen. So he didn't have this exact use case, and I did some tweaking of my own, but I just have to shout out Daniel Christian because I wouldn't have been able to get this work without his video. This first up here, this sets the timestamp for the video. Then we get the actual audio for the recording. Once again, we stop the recording. Then basically, as it was explained, the audio file, we get a ton of data around the audio file. We don't need most of that data. So these next two things, the temp JSON and the string beef64 var, that's just pulling out just the little bits that we need in order to send those to SharePoint ultimately. So we're going to use specifically this string B64 var in the next control, which is this preview audio button. So like I said, this doesn't show up. I can actually show you that really quick. I forgot to pull that up here. So the way that it actually works is Lindsay, Shelton, my pronouns are she, her. I preview the audio and then that control shows up and I can delete it or I can preview it again and then I can upload it. So when I go back in here from current slide, so when I click that preview audio button, what it's doing is it's using the collect function and it's gathering, most importantly, these three variables. The duration variable, which we're going to use and put in our SharePoint library, the recording name, which is obviously going to be the name of our file, and the recording itself, which you can see we're setting to this string B64 variable. So that's that kind of finessed, finagled version of the audio that we're going to utilize. And that's what's going to be uploaded when we click that upload audio button. So we're triggering the Power Automate flow. So let's switch gears here. Let's go over to that. Prior to making the Power Automate flow, you want to make a SharePoint document library, and it's very simple setup. The only column you need to add is a number column called duration. So call it duration, just a number column. You don't need to change any of the other settings. Then you go and you make your flow. The trigger is Power Apps, Instant Flow. And then we're bringing over, as I said, 3 variables from the Power App. So we're initializing a variable using that string 64 var variable, and we're turning it into a string. We're including that value in here, and we're calling it the base 64 to audio. Then we're creating a file in SharePoint. So we've got our site name, our folder path. This is the second variable here, the create file. This is the file name. I just have to add the .mp3 just to kind of type it. And then this is really the trickiest part of the flow, is we're using one expression. This is the one thing I did have to tweak from how Daniel's video did it. I'm not sure why. I kind of smash my way through things and then just try things until they work. I had to use base 64 to binary and then translate this variable, the base 64 to audio. I translated that to binary, and that's what got it to work. And so that's the file content. And then we just had to add a third action here for updating the file properties, because I wanted to put in the duration. For me, especially when testing, it was helpful to see the duration, because I could tell, oh, this is that file I just tested, or, oh, it didn't upload properly because that duration didn't change. So we've got those 3 items that came over from the Power App, and it's really just needs to be 3 actions in the Power Automate flow. I have a few extras just to make it more, just to add more variables, but you don't necessarily need to have those. And then when you're actually clicking upload the audio file, we're using the for all. We've got the name of our Power Automate flow here, the generic save audio file to SharePoint Online, run, and then our 3 variables: recording, the recording name, and the duration. So that's basically it. I'm sorry if I went through that too fast, but like I said, it is on the PNP samples gallery. The whole project, as I said, wouldn't be possible without Daniel Christian's video. So go check out his YouTube channel, and also check out Christine K's tutorials. She makes some amazing stuff. She did the walkthrough on the pneumorphic buttons. I didn't show you the pneumorphic button. I'll show it to you really quick. Ooh, there you go. That's it.
Awesome. Thank you, Lindsay. This is really fantastic. And for someone who always has trouble, I'm horrible at it, I admit. I love this. So helpful. It creates a sense of togetherness and respect for other people to properly identify and call them by their real name. So thank you for sharing that. Really great stuff.
And a lot of people forget that, it's not just foreign people's names. Like, my name is going to be hard for someone from a different country to say too. So it's everyone's names that, needs help and practice.
Exactly. For me, that's why I tell everybody, hey, just say, hey, you. I'll respond to, hey, you. And that's good enough. All right. Awesome. Thank you, Lindsay. Well, let's move on to Dennis, who's going to show us how to mention a bot from a Power Automate flow. So, Dennis, the floor is yours, my man.
Thank you, David. Let me share my screen as well. So yeah, I'm Dennis Goedegebuure, talking about last names and pronunciation. That's probably a difficult one for a lot of people. And my handle on Twitter and all the socials is xpiscornovus, another one for pronunciation. And today I'm going to talk about mention a bot from within a flow. So first of all, something about me. I'm an IT consultant. I work at Ultima in Reading, UK. I'm actually Dutch, so I moved to the UK 4 years ago. And I primarily like to help out people with their IT challenges. So that's what I'm doing as work, but that's also what I'm doing in my free time. Other things which I'm doing in my free time is running. I like running. I'm a gamer, and I also like to cook, which obviously helps with the family life. And besides that, I'm also a super user, and I recently became a business applications MVP, so I'm pretty proud of that. As a super user, I constantly help out on the Power Users forums. I really like that. Like I said, I like to help out people, but I also learn a lot about that. And today is something I'm sharing. I'm sharing something which I learned from that forum. So a person called Himashi, hopefully I pronounced it correctly, asked about how to mention a bot from a flow in Teams. So this whole solution is based around that question. So I looked into that. I did some research. I reflected a couple of polls from the Graph API, and I came up with this solution, which I'm today presenting to you guys. So what is it made of? It has a couple of building blocks. First of all, I built and published a Power Virtual Agent. Second of all, I created a list in SharePoint, which is holding information about frequently asked questions, and I applied some view formatting to it. Thirdly, I created a team and a channel, because obviously I wanted to mention the bot from that channel. And lastly, I created a flow which monitors the channel, and which whenever the hashtag FAQ keyword gets mentioned, then this flow will get triggered and it will mention obviously the bot. And then lastly, and that's always with these kind of solutions, I've tested it loads of times, because obviously at the first try I didn't succeed, so it was testing, and more testing. Obviously this is a live demo, so it not always works. So let me first of all show you how it should work. So I've recorded an animated GIF. As you can see in here, I posted, I have a question, hashtag FAQ, and then what you see is I reply to that with a message, and the message has the topic trigger of the Power Virtual Agent, and that's when the bot kicks in with a response. So that's how it should work. So let me switch to my demo environment to show you in real life. So like I mentioned before, it has a couple of components. So first of all, the Power Virtual Agent. That agent. So this is the Power Virtual Agent. It's just a straightforward one. And what I did is within the Power Virtual Agent, I created a topic called FAQ example topic. And that topic only has two actions or two components. A trigger phrase, so can you show me the FAQ, question mark, and a response from the bot, which is, here's the link to the FAQ. So if you would test that, it would look like this. So it's pretty basic setup. What I did with this Power Virtual Agent is I published it, and I published it to the Microsoft Teams channel, or to Microsoft Teams as an app. And yeah, that's about it. And what's important from this, after you've set this up, is that you record a couple of details. You will need that later down the line for the Power Automate flow. So one of the things which you should take a note of is the name of the bot, which is pretty straightforward, FAQ bot, but also this bot app ID. So that's really important for the ad mentioning part of things. So be sure to copy and paste that. So that's the first part, the Power Virtual Agent. The second part is the list itself. So I can actually click on it and just navigate to that. So the second part is again a pretty straightforward list. So it's all around the scenario of sharing FAQ questions and answers. So hopefully that's zoomed in correctly. So it has a title column, question, an answer, and a category. So yeah, this looks pretty nice. But what I did is I also applied some formatting to it. So you can see that here in the FAQ per category view. So this shows like an accordion kind of style. I didn't figure this out on my own. I just used a great resource, and that resource is the PnP GitHub IO list formatting samples database or site. So if you go to that, you have all these view samples, and one of them is the FAQ accordion. So credit where credit is due. That's from Anand Goedegebuure. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. So yeah, just have a look at this JSON and apply it to it. So that's the second part of the ad mentioning. The third part, yeah, is a pretty simple part. That's creating a theme. So the theme is just again a Microsoft theme with an additional channel. So in this instance, I created a bot mentioning channel, and that's it. No special configuration for that. So that's part number 3. And part number 4 is the flow itself. So that's where, yeah, the most interesting part for me came into play. So again, let me zoom in. So this flow has several steps. So the first step is the trigger action, when a new channel message is added, trigger action. And that action has a couple of configurations. So first of all, it's looking obviously at the theme I just showed you. And it's also looking into new messages within the bot mentioning channel. But we don't want to trigger it every single time, because people can type a lot of different type of messages. So what I did is I included a trigger condition, and you can actually already see that here in the notes. So what I'm doing is I'm using an index of function, and that index of function is looking for the hashtag FAQ string within the body content field. And it checks if that value, or if that's the output of the index of function, is equal to -1. I don't know if you're aware, but if an index 1 outputs -1, it means it hasn't found the keyword you're looking for, the string value you're looking for. And we want to have the reverse output of that. So that's why I'm putting a not around it. So effectively what I'm saying in this expression is, if I haven't found FAQ, I want the opposite of that. So if I found FAQ, then trigger this flow. So that's where this trigger condition expression comes into play. For the people who haven't used that, you can add that here in the settings. So that expression is added here in this area. So that's the first part, how to trigger this flow. And after that, I'm going to reply to the message. And I'm doing that by using send an HTTP request action from the Office 365 connector. And that action is using the reply to a channel message graph API method. There's documentation about that. So in the graph API documentation, you can find it, how you can construct such a request. So as you can see in here, the team ID, a channel ID, and a message ID are needed. And you can post things like content and other types of properties. So with a bit of reverse engineering, I figured out that it was possible to obviously reply to that message. But I also figured out that you need this @ sign to do mentioning. You need the bot name. And if you use that @ tag, I should say, then you can refer to your bot by using this application in the mentions section. So in here you can see an application section, and here's that app ID I referred to earlier. So I stored it in some variables in here. So in here, here's that same ID. But that's the way how I figured out how you could mention a bot. So hopefully I still have some time. So let me try and see if it works now as a real live demo. So where can I find the hashtag FAQ? Again, hopefully it's clear. Let me zoom in a bit again. And normally, as you can see in previous demos, it took about 1 to 2 minutes before that trigger kicked in. But in essence, now that flow is looking for this keyword, and whenever it found it, it should reply with this. So hopefully, like I said, we still have some time left for that, to wait for that.
Yeah, you're good. No problem.
Okay,
this is
cool.
really, really slick, Dennis. Very cool.
Yeah, last time, like you can see here, it's 2-3 minutes. So hopefully it's now a bit faster. Here it was 1 minute. So I'm not sure if it's like a 5 minutes batch job kind of thing in the background, that it's not actual real time.
It knows we're all watching, so it's like I want my time in the spotlight.
Yeah, exactly. But I was looking back at this. This is like I created this 7 months ago. Yeah, probably you can. I've seen like a ChatGPT connector, so probably you can also include those kind of connectors in this process as well. But so this is yeah, still pretty static, but yeah, I already have some new ideas for this. Oh yeah, there it is. So now you can see I mentioned the bot, and now the bot also responds with its own response because I mentioned it. So yeah, that's it. So let me go back to my presentation. So yeah, that's it. If you have any questions, yeah, feel free to mention me or contact me on my socials. And otherwise, yeah, I'm always on the Power Users Forum, so mention me on there as well. Thank you.
Awesome stuff, Dennis. This is really, really cool. And just, I love, again, both demos so far today have the better together storyline to them using multiple technologies. Just warms my heart to see that, because that's just real life. So thank you so much, Dennis. All right, Scott. Great, Scott. It is time for effortlessly showing grids of data in your Power Apps using CreatorKit. Take it away.
Thank you very much, David. Yes, great, Scott. Indeed. And yeah, my name is Scott Durow, commonly pronounced as Durow. So actually, the pronunciation of names would be very good for that. So I've been a business applications MVP since 2013. I've had the pleasure of kind of growing up with a platform from all the various different pieces coming together to make the awesome platform that we know today. There's my various different social media profiles that you can go and reach me on. But you might have seen me as the Lemmings guy. I write games in Power Apps quite a lot, just to kind of just prove that they can do certain things. But before that, I was the kind of ribbon workbench guy, and this was a tool that allows you to customize Power Apps, model-driven apps. And before that, it was Dynamics 365, and before that, it was Dynamics CRM. But today, I'm going to be the Creator Kit guy. So what is the Creator Kit? So the Creator Kit is a solution that's been developed by the PowerCat team, and I actually had the pleasure of working with the PowerCat team on it. And it's a group of components that you can install into your environment and then use in both in your Canvas apps and also your custom pages inside model-driven apps. And it basically creates this fluent UI style set of controls that you can create user interfaces that look very similar to the Office, the SharePoint, the model-driven app style of user interface. And, you know, sometimes it can be quite hard to create user interfaces that look consistent with other parts of the Power Platform. So it just bridges this gap until perhaps the first party, there will be out of the box controls to do this. And it's open source. You can get the source code. And so I'm going to give you some links at the end, and here they are actually, if you want for reference on how to do all of the installation, etc. But what I'm going to show you specifically in this presentation is how to show data in tabular format. Because one of the things, if you're using SharePoint, tabular data is very common, right? You know, we all create a list and you can add columns and you can move them around. If you've used model-driven apps, again, you know, it's a very common thing. You have your list, you can sort and you can add different columns and select different rows. It's kind of basic kind of stuff. But if you are using Canvas apps without the Creator Kit, we've all been there. We've tried to create grids using galleries. I've done it so many times, and it feels a little bit like Jenga, because you know, you get it looking really great, and then you try and adjust something, and then it all sort of comes tumbling down. Well, I mean, at least that's my experience. And so what the Creator Kit has got is it's got something called the details list. And if we come down to the reference app that you get when you install the Creator Kit, and I'm not going to go through on how to install it because there's a whole ton of really great documentation. If you go to the Learn page, which I'll give you a link to, there is fantastic set of documentation on how to install it, what you need to do, the prerequisites, and also documentation on all the different components. But one of the parts of that installation is you get a sample reference app, and part of that reference app is a section on the details list. So you can see here that we've got, you know, like it demonstrates all of its different capabilities, and you know, it does basic grids, but you can also have things like icons, and you can have tags, and you can have expanding and collapsing elements. You can have inline content as well, sort of content that perhaps in a responsive environment you might want to wrap it over into multiple lines to keep the data density high. And so what I'm going to show you is how to do that, right? Because it's a demo. So I've got just a Canvas app here, and I'm going to go and create a new screen, and I'm going to use this responsive layout here, which is using containers. And so we've got the root and then 3 different containers in there. Now the middle container is this container here, which is a stack set of containers. So this makes it very easy to put our components in there so they just automatically stack up, and I can adjust the relative heights, make them stretch to the full width. So if you've not used responsive containers yet, I really recommend going and checking them out, because it makes making apps work on multiple different device formats really, really easy. Grids are all about data density. I mean, this is the thing, because galleries are fantastic, right? I can go and add in a gallery, and I can bind that to some data, and I can, add an image, and I can add sort of like a headline piece of data, and then sort of a subheading, and then maybe a secondary bit of data, and then a chevron to go and expand to show more data. But then if you want to actually cram lots of data into there, then that's where grids really come into their own, because it allows you to sort of have these columns that you can then resize and, like I said, wrap on multiple lines if you need to. So by default, you don't have a fluent style grid. We've got this data table preview, which has got some basic data grid formatting. It's quite limited in what it can do, but sometimes it might be useful. But in order to get the details list from the creator kit, you have to go down to this rather sort of hidden little thing down at the bottom here. Well, that's a bit too large. Let's just zoom out a bit. Oh my goodness, that's there we go. How big can we get this? I've got a new mouse, and it's somewhat a little bit trigger happy, but anyway, down the bottom we've got this get more components. So I'm going to go and add in a details list from the PowerCat. So if I search here, you can see here it's got details list from the PowerCat publisher. And once I do that, it will then be added into, there we go, I'll import that. It'll be added into my set of controls that I can insert into my Canvas app or my custom page. It doesn't come under the layout, it comes under this code components area. And this is slightly different. If you've used Canvas components, it's going to be slightly different. So you have to go to this code components area. And so when I add in this component, it just sort of pops it in as a square block. Not really very interesting. But if I select this middle responsive container there, I can start to set the properties to say, okay, I'm going to stretch it out to fill the whole width there, and I'm also going to make it a flexible height, so it'll fill the whole height. And in order to get this started to show data, I obviously need to go and add some data to my app. So I'm going to add in accounts. And if we've got time, hopefully we'll also show wiring it up to some contacts as well. So I'm going to add contacts in as well, like that. So if this was a gallery, right, I would go over to the items property that I'm going to bind this to, and I put in the values that I want to, the record set that I want to bind it to. So in this case, I'm going to say filter on accounts and show only where there is an industry set, because I'm going to show that as a column. So as soon as I do that, it loads the data. So if I highlight this, you can see I've got some data in here, which is great, but it's not showing it because it's still giving me this message to say there are no columns defined. So there are two things I need to do. Firstly, I need to define which columns I'm going to show. So at the moment, by default, I've just got the standard view, so the account name, etc. So I'm going to add in an industry, and I'm also going to add in telephone as well, like that. Telephone. Oh, perhaps it's already in there. And let's see. Yep, there's main phone. It's already in there. Okay, good. So what we'll do now is you can see that it's still saying there are no columns defined, because there's that second step, and this is the really important step, is because if you've used SharePoint or model-driven apps, you'll know obviously you've got to define the view layout. If I come into this columns property, this is where I say we've got the raw data, which is what we've bound to, that we've bound it to the accounts, but we've now got to say, well, which columns do you want to show and in which order? And so the way we do this is, or one of the ways we can do this is we just define a table, and we can define a row for each of the different columns. I'm just going to paste in some data into there, just so you don't have to watch me type that out, which would be particularly painful. So there we go. Now, what this is doing is each of these rows in this table here. So the first one has got a number of different properties, and in the docs there's a description of what these do. So, but basically, the simplest is you've got the name of the column that you're going to bind this particular column in the view to, and then the display name, and then the width. This is the sort of like the minimum information. Now you could obviously make this width responsive to based on the parent width and divide it by the number of columns, etc. But there's also these extra set of properties. So in this case, I'm going to say, right, well, this is the name column. So I'm going to say this is the header cell. So it's going to be slightly bigger. I'm going to make it bold. But I'm also going to say it's sortable and it's resizable. And equally for the telephone as well. So if I go now and run this, it's looking good. I've got my data here, and I can sort by this, and I can sort by telephone. And so it's immediately giving me that ability to show my tabular data. And the critical thing here is this is all happening, this sorting, for example, is all happening in a delegatable way. So if you've done any work on large data sets, you'll know that it's very important to make sure you've got delegatable filtering and sorting. And so this sorting will automatically be handled against the data source. So that's all great. And what I'm going to do is add in a little bit more information. So add in some more columns here. So there we go. There's our existing 2 columns, and I'm just going to pop in 3 more. So I've got industry code, primary contact, and description. So just a couple of things I want to point out here. On primary contact, okay, the standard stuff that we would expect, primary contact ID, which is the name of the column and the display column. But there is this slightly interesting separate sort by column, and this is very specific to Dataverse in the sense that we're displaying the name of the contact, but when we are if we are going to sort by that, then Dataverse would sort of doesn't really know if it needs to sort by the ID or if it's going to sort by the name of the contact. So you need to give it this slightly different format. But if I run this, you'll notice that it's not giving me this description column. And this is a very, very common pitfall, because I can sort by primary contact. So if I show, there we go, there's all my contacts, but it's not showing the description. And the reason being is if I go into edit here, I haven't added this into my fields that I'm going to expose. And this is very important, because what you're doing is you're telling Power Apps what data needs to be requested from that data source. So it doesn't just go and get all the data. And so now you can see, as soon as I do that, you can see we're now getting the description added to each of the row. But also notice that it's added underneath that first row. And the reason being is if you look at the columns down here, we've got a special property here called show as subtext of. So we're saying show this particular piece of information as a child of the name. And you could make this dynamic. So, based on the format, the width of the app, you could fold in to show it as a child column, or if you've got space, show it as a separate column. So that's all great. And one thing to point out here is that this is all accessible. So I'm using the cursor keys here to move up and down. And, I can tab around as well, and I can use return to actually do all of the sorting. And this is some of the things that are actually quite difficult to manage if you're using galleries to but we would just assume that they work for grids. It's just one of those kind of things. So what I do now is I'm going to show a additional row for the related columns. The related contacts. And the way that I'll do that is I'll go into the container here, and I'll add in another details list. So it's going to add it underneath. Now, apologies, I'm not, but just because I haven't got enough time, I am not naming all my containers and my controls using a correct naming convention, which you obviously should do. But there we go. I've now added in my a separate date details list, and what I want to do is I want to say when I select a contact in the top here, it shows the related contacts below. So I'm just going to pop in some columns for this child set of contacts, but also going to bind it to like that. Okay, I'm going to bind it to some the contacts here, and what I'm doing here is I'm saying only show me the contacts where the company name on the contact equals the selected account in the top grid, because there are lots of properties that these grids give you. So you can give them input properties, so the rows that you want to show, the view, but it's also got output properties, in this case, which row has been selected. It's also got other output properties like the number of records, the number of pages, all of those kind of things. There's also this interesting thing here, this as type. And what this is doing is because the parent company or the parent of a contact is actually a polymorphic lookup, so it can be related to a parent account, or actually it could also be related to a parent contact. So I'm sort of casting this, I'm forcing it to always use the account, and otherwise there would be a type mismatch here. And again, that's sort of like a Dataverse thing. So I'm going to pop in a column, go into the columns here, and I'm going to say tables like that, a table, and put in a column. Oh, no, not that one. That's a little bit, let's just jump in the gun and for a little bit more. So there we go. And now we're showing, if I select that, it's now showing only the contacts for that selected record. But the last thing I wanted to show you is that when we are using these details lists, it's got the ability to show some slightly different formatting for these cells, because if you're using a gallery, obviously it's super flexible. Okay, you can show any data that you can use any formatting, any colors, fonts, type buttons, all those kind of things. With a details list, there is a trade-off, right? You do have to manage that trade-off. But if I go into my fields here and add in my credit hold there like that, we now, if we wanted to show that as a sort of like a colored tag, like a SharePoint list style thing, what we can do is we can come into the format of my credit hold column, and I can define this as being a tag. So here we can see that we've now defined this as a tag column cell, and we're also saying we're now defining the color is going to be taken for this particular cell from this other column here, this credit tag color. And so at the moment it's just gray, right? Because we haven't defined that additional column. And so the way we do that is if we come into the records for this particular contact, and if I replace this, what I'm doing here is, let's just name this as grid contacts, because that's the name we're going to give it. And I go into here. What we're looking at here is grid accounts. Then we're just adding in an additional column called credit tag color, because that's the name we specified in our view property when we're defining the columns. And we're just saying if its credit hold is true, then we're going to give it this color. If it's not, we'll have this color. And so if we run this, you can see, there we go. We've got it now highlighted in different colors. And there are sort of different other things you can do, put in SVGs and things like that. Now, I just want to highlight something lastly, and that is that as soon as you do this, you do lose some of the sorting aspects, because this is now using a local collection, because you used add columns. It's not binding directly to the Dataverse. So if you come over into the documentation and you look at the behavior section, there's a lot of information there on how to manage sorting when you binding it to a collection rather than directly to a data source, as well as how to manage paging and all of those kind of things. So it's a fantastic set of documentation that backs that up, and there's even kind of code samples that you can copy and paste in there. But yeah, that's really what I wanted to show you, how you can very quickly get that kind of fully fledged data grid style functionality very, very quickly without having to go and use that Jenga style grid using galleries. So yeah, David, that's all from me.
Awesome, Scott. Well, I think now we can officially call you Awesome Demo Guy. Is that? I think everybody agrees with that. So you can add another one to the list. Very, very good.
Those links actually. We'll those are the links. So I guess you'll email those out to get more information.
Yeah, I put them in the chat earlier for you as well, so everybody can
Fantastic.
Get that. So excellent, thank you, Scott. Very, very cool. All right, everybody, we're still a couple minutes over, but we're wrapping this up. Want to thank all of our presenters today, Lindsay, Dennis, and Scott, for amazing job. Now, I had promised a little bit of something new, something exciting. Everybody loves conversing in the chat on these calls, but you might have questions after the call. You might even be watching this on demand. You might not be watching live and I'm missing out on the chat. Well, we are introducing community call conversations. Let's continue the conversation. We are creating dedicated space for our presenters within our community platform for you to continue the conversation, to have a conversation, ask questions, collaborate with the presenters. Each demo is going to get a dedicated thread on the Power Apps board for you to communicate and collaborate with other members of the community. The presenters ask questions, chat, maybe start working together on some ideas. We really want to encourage collaboration that reaches beyond just the calls and the scope of the hour that we're spending together. So to make it easy, we've got some QR codes, we've got some URLs for you to use. We're going to put this in the chat as well. And this is going to be an ongoing thing, everybody. So we're going to start integrating this in our other community calls as well. Our operators, if you will, are standing by. Lindsay, Dennis, and Scott are all going to be there in the chat. Now, it's not just open for a finite amount of time, it's open indefinitely. So you're able to continue to chat with folks within the community and these presenters. Just another way that we're trying to encourage and empower you to collaborate with the technology that we all love. All right, so look forward to seeing those conversations. You can always get more helpful resources at all these URLs, our community front door, videos, samples, our community platforms, all available for you to communicate and collaborate with. And of course, if you like calls, we got calls. Definitely check out the Microsoft 365 platform call. This is specifically for Microsoft presenters, so you're always going to get it directly from the mothership. And then we've got a variety of other community calls, identity platform, Office add-ins, Power Platform, which you're on, and then of course the development-focused M365 and Power Platform, and VV Connections and SharePoint Framework. You can access all these calls at aka.ms/community/calls. Thank you again for all attending. The recording will be available within the community YouTube account here within 24 to 48 hours. Don't try to access it from Teams. If you're not in Microsoft, it won't let you, so it'll just end up in sadness. But we promise you, if you go to aka.ms/community/videos and you subscribe to our YouTube channels, you will actually get notified when they are available. And we will absolutely let you know. You could also follow us on Twitter at Microsoft 365 Dev and at M365PNP. Our next call, 1 month from today, February 15th, 2023, 8 a.m. Pacific, same bat time, same bat channel. You can get the invite at aka.ms/Power Platform Community Call. So definitely check that out. Get that on your calendar. And thank you, everybody, for being amazing. We look forward to a fantastic year with all of you. See you in the community.